Good day, everyone. And now let's discuss the data collection tools that are used in action research. Okay, data collection tools. So, there are many ways of collecting data needed for an action research project. The choice of data collection tools depends on the availability of data and the capacity of the researcher. Tools must be relevant, appropriate, and aligned with a research problem. So most data collections are within the researcher's reach, control, and safekeeping. So in action research, data collection is a very important process because it serves as the foundation of the entire study. So there are many ways to collect data, and the researchers that does not rely on just only one method. So the choice of data collection tools depends on two major factors. The first one is the availability of the data, and the second one is the capacity of the researcher to gather the data. So it is important that the tools used are relevant, uh, appropriate to the research problem. So most of these tools are already in the researchers reach, control, and safekeeping, which makes them more practical and convenient to use in a classroom-based research. Next up, we have the case studies. So, a case study is an in depth description of a process, experience, or structure in a single institution. It is used to answer a combination of what and why research questions. It is a mix of a quantitative and qualitative data. So, quantitative data are usually analyzed first, followed by a qualitative data for deeper understanding. So, a case study is a data collection method that focuses on an in depth examination of a process, experience, or structure within a single institution. So, this method is commonly used when the researcher wants to answer both what and why questions. So, case studies usually combine quantitative data and um, quantitative data such as surveys and the use of statistics, then qualitative data like interviews or document analysis. So often the researcher analyzes the quantitative data first to identify the trends and then uses the quantitative data to further explain and understand the meaning behind those trends. So, checklists. Checklists are tools that structure observations or evaluations of a performance or artifact. They consist of simple criteria marked as a present or absent. Some checklists provide space for comments or additional observations. These tools ensure consistency over time and between different observers. So, checklists are structured tools that help organize or observations or evaluations of a performance, behavior, or output. So, this may be simple lists of criteria where items are marked as present or absent, or they maybe include spaces for additional comments. So, one major advantage of using checklists is that they provide consistency over time and between different observers. In action research, checklists are often used in observing instructional sessions, evaluating learning materials, or assessing services and facilities within the school. Let's proceed with interviews. So, interviews are in depth data collection tools that involve direct interaction with participants. They may be conducted as individual interviews or group interviews such as focus groups. Data may be recorded through audio recording, video recording, or written notes. The main purpose is to probe ideas, perceptions, and experiences of participants. So, interviews are in depth data collections that involve direct interaction between the researcher and our participants. So, this may be conducted as individual interviews or as a group interviews like focus group discussion. So, interviews can be recorded through audio, video, or written notes to ensure the accuracy of our data. So unlike observation, interviews allows the researcher to ask follow-up questions and to probe deeper into the participants' ideas, perceptions, and experiences related to the phenomenon being studied by our researcher. Next is observation. So, observation is a method of collecting data by watching behaviors and events. It may be done directly or indirectly with or without the subject's awareness. So, data can be gathered through continuous observation or set time periods. This method allows the researcher to record natural behavior in a real setting. So, observation is one of the most effective ways to collect data because it allows the researcher to witness the actual behavior in real life situations. So, observation may be done directly or indirectly, and our participants may or may not be aware that they are being observed. So, data can be gathered continuously or at a specific time intervals depending on our research design. So this method is particularly used in a classroom-based action research where natural behavior and interaction are important sources of our data. Let's proceed with the types of observation. Descriptive observation focuses on writing exactly what is seen without interpretation. Inferential observation includes interpretations based on body language or behavior. Evaluative observation involves making judgment or inference from observed behavior. So findings must be replicable to ensure the credibility. So there are three main types of observation in action research. The first one is descriptive observation, which involves writing down exactly what is observed without adding interpretation. The inferential observation goes beyond description by interpreting behavior based on a body language or actions. Then the evaluative observation involves someone making judgments or conclusions based on the observed behavior. However, when using inferential and evaluative observations, us researchers must ensure that the findings can be replicated to maintain credibility and reliability. Okay, next is survey questionnaires. So, survey questionnaires are structured instruments used to collect data from our many respondents. They ensure standardized questions focused on a specific topic. Surveys gather data on demographics, opinions, attitudes, and behaviors. This tool is useful for collecting large scale data efficiently. So, in survey questionnaires, these are structured instruments designed to collect data from a larger number of respondents. So, these surveys usually contain a standardized questions that focuses on specific topic or issue. Survey questionnaires are commonly used to gather data on demographics, opinions, and attitudes and behaviors because they are systematic and easy to administer. So these are effective tools for gathering, especially quantitative data in action research. So next up, we have your documentary or content analysis. So documentary or content analysis involves examining existing written or recorded materials. Classroom-based documents include the students' profiles and grades, anecdotal records and journals, curricula and syllabi, and school memoranda. So these materials provide contextual and historical data. So when we say documentary or content analysis, it involves examining existing written or recorded materials within their context. So in classroom-based action research, documents such as enrollment records, students' grades, anecdotal records, journal entries, curricula, syllabi, and school memoranda. It serves as a valuable sources of data because this provides historical and contextual information that helps us researchers to better understand the situation being studied. Okay, narratives. Narratives consist of stories about individuals' lives collected through oral or written forms. The data may come with student write ups, journal entries, or recorded discussions. So the researcher retells or restored the information into a chronological narrative. This means helps understand personal experiences and meaning. So, narratives refers to the stories about the individual's lives through oral or written form. So, they may come up with the students' write-ups or recorded discussion. So, the researcher then retells um, stories into a chronological narrative. Then, the narrative analysis allows us researchers to understand the personal experiences, emotions, and meanings that may not be captured by the quantitative data alone. Project techniques and doodles. So, project techniques involves drawings or sketches that express meaning and emotion. This reflects a person's feelings, concerns, and life situations. Interpretation requires the help of trained professionals such as psychometricians. This ensures that findings are valid, reliable, and ethical. So, projective techniques involves the uses of drawings, doodles, or sketches to express the meanings and emotions and personal concerns. So these graphical representations may reflect an individual's feelings, life situations, or behavioral instincts. However, because interpretation of these drawings can be complex and sensitive, the services of trained professionals, like for example, psychometricians, are required. So this ensures that our findings are valid, reliable, and free from misinterpretation. Next, tests. Tests are quantitative data tools that produce scores and interpretations. They provide more reliable results compared to purely qualitative tools. They may be standardized or researcher made. They can be administered in print or online format. So tests are highly quantitative data collection that provide reliable results through scores and interpretation because these tools are useful because they allow objective measurement of learning, our ability or performance. So these tests may be administered from printed form or online depending on the availability of our technology. So, with the advancements of our digital platforms, online tests like Google are now more convenient and allows automatic recording, scoring, and analysis of the results. Okay, let's proceed with the types of tests. The first one, as I have mentioned, the standardized tests. These tests have undergone pilot testing, validation, and reliability checks. These examples include the intelligence, aptitude, and personality tests, while researcher made tests are tailored to the research context. So they must undergo validation procedures such as pilot testing and item analysis. So again, there are two types of tests used in action research. The first is a standardized test, and the second is a researcher made test. So standardized tests are pre-developed instruments that have already undergone pilot testing, validation, and reliability checks, which means they are ready to use and provide consistent and comparable results. However, their main limitation is that they are often generalized, so their relevance to the local or classroom context sometimes may be questioned. In contrast naman, the researcher made tests are specifically designed by the researcher to directly address the research problem and context of our study. So these tests are highly um, contextualized, makes and it makes them more relevant and more appropriate to the learner and settings involved. However, unlike the standardized test, researcher made tests do not automatically guarantee the validity, which is why they must undergo the validation process or procedures such as pilot testing, retesting, and item analysis to ensure their accuracy and credibility as tools. Okay, let's proceed with the authentic assessment. It goes beyond measuring factual knowledge, focuses on demonstrated skills and competencies. Commonly, forms include performance tasks, projects, outputs, or presentations, reports, and it also serves as a data gathering tool in action research. It requires the use of standard rubrics. So there are two types of rubrics, the holistic and analytic. For better reliability, assessments should be done by more than one evaluator. So here in authentic assessment, it measures the learner's actual skills and competencies rather than just their theoretical knowledge. They may take the form of performances, projects, presentations, or outputs to ensure the fairness and reliable results. So standardized rubrics must be used, and if possible, more than one assessors should evaluate our performance. Then anecdotal records. So these are written descriptive records of individuals' behavior. Document what a person says or does in specific situations, collected over a period of time. It focuses on accurate and objective description. It is used for explanation and interpretation of behavior. So anecdotal records are detailed written accounts of an individual's actions or statements in a specific situations over time. So the goal is to provide an accurate description that allows the us researchers to explain and interpret observed behavior clearly. Next up, we have here field notes. It is similar to anecdotal records but more informal. It includes observations, impressions, and initial interpretations. Maybe describe classroom interactions, conflict, or students' behavior. So, field notes are similar to anecdotal records, but it includes the researcher's impression and initial interpretations. So these notes capture observed events such as classroom interactions, disagreements or conflicts, or behavioral concerns.
Next, we have ecological behavior. Descriptions focus on observing and understanding behavior as it naturally occurs. So, unlike anecdotal records, this tool is less issue focused and aims to capture the full sequence of actions within a real life setting. Next, we have diaries. So, diaries are personal accounts in regular process. They allow teachers or even researchers to reflect on their experiences, monitor changes in teaching strategies, and document professional growth. Now let's take a look about portfolio. So a portfolio is a purposeful collection of documents and materials that provide evidence of progress and behavior over time. It may include academic works, reports, correspondence, and records related to the area of concern. Next, the principle of triangulation. So this stresses the importance of using multiple data sources in action research. By combining different types of data and involving different people in interpretation, the findings becomes more credible and reliable. Baseline data helps identify the problem, while research data measure the effectiveness of the intervention. Next, the principle of triangulation. So this stresses the importance of using multiple data sources in action research. By combining different types of data and involving different people in interpretation, the findings becomes more credible and reliable. Baseline data helps identify the problem, while research data measure the effectiveness of the intervention. Now let's talk about the advantages of these tools. So let's start with survey and questionnaires. These are your go-to school tools when you need to reach a large number of people quickly. So the pros or the advantages, they are incredibly efficient for big data sets and allow respondents to stay anonymous, which often leads to more honest answers. Plus, using rating scales make it easy to turn results into charts. However, on the flip side, they aren't great for deep qualitative richness. Open-ended questions can also be a nightmare to analyze if you have hundreds of them, and if your words isn't crystal clear, people will misinterpret your questions. So here are the techniques. First, questions must be limited to the research question and design the first technique and research that and be relevant. Question 3 to 5 people. Respondents. So styles and find here are confusing questions for the respondent the question correctly. Feel the reality and third, provide a short explanation of the research study. Third technique highlights the importance of being brief explanation of the study and respondents. This includes the purpose of the questionnaire the goals of the research, and how the collected data will be used. Doing so helps respondents feel informed and comfortable when answering. Fourth, the formats of different questions will be yield different types of data. The four techniques explains the different question formats produce different types of data. For example, closed-ended questions usually generated quantitative data, while open-ended questions produce qualitative data. So choosing the appropriate format is important to obtain the kind of data needed for the study. Last, we have using a computer to save time in organizing and analyzing the data. So it focuses on the use of computers in data processing. Using digital tools or software can save time in organizing, analyzing, and interpreting the collected data. It also reduces errors and makes data analysis more efficient. Next, we have interviews, which are essentially conversations with a purpose. So the advantage, this is where you get the why behind the what. You can ask follow-up questions, clarify points on the spot, and it's especially effective for younger students who might struggle with the written form. However, this the trade-off is time. Interviews take a long time to conduct and even longer to transcribe. You also lose anonymity, and there's always a risk of interviewer bias, where the researcher unintentionally influences the answer. We have 5 tips in conducting interviews. First, plan the interview by developing a set of questions. So this is careful planning of the interview. The researcher should prepare a set of questions that are clearly focused on the research problem. This ensures that the interview stays on topic and that the information gathered is relevant to the study. Second, field test the interview questions. This technique involves field teaching the interview questions with 3 to 5 people who are not part of the actual study. This helps the researcher check if the questions are clear, appropriate, and easy to understand. It also allows revisions before the real interviews are conducted. Third, use group interviews when appropriate. Interview can be effective, especially when the participants are students. Depending on the research question, group interviews may encourage discussion and allow participants to share ideas more freely. This can provide richer and more detailed data. Fourth, we have developed rapport with the interviewees. This emphasizes the importance of building rapport during the interview. Taking time to make the interviewees feel comfortable helps them become more open and honest in their responses. A good rapport leads to more accurate and meaningful information. And lastly, consider taping the interview. Then consider recording the interview participant gave information. Recording ensures that responses are captured accurately and allows the researcher to review the interview later for analysis. This also helps prevent loss of important information. Finally, we look at observation. As Grady on 1998 put it, this is simply looking with a purpose. So the advantage, this gives you a holistic view of what's actually happening in a classroom or playground. It's perfect for documenting nonverbal behaviors that a student might not even realize they are doing. However, the disadvantage, it's labor intensive. It can also be hard to isolate a specific behavior in a busy room, and sometimes people act differently just because they know they are being watched. So let's take a look about its strategy. So first, develop an observation plan and a data collection template. So this is to create a clear observation plan and a data collection template. This helps organize what to observe, how to record it, and ensure that the data collected is systematic and consistent. Second, conduct observations at different times of the day. It is to observe at different times to capture a fuller picture of the activity or behavior being studied. Observing at multiple times can reveal patterns that may not appear in a single observation. Third, consider asking a colleague to conduct the observation. So it suggests involving a colleague as a second observer. This can reduce bias, provide a second perspective, and creates the reliability of the data collected. So fourth, consider using a camera or videotape when ethically appropriate. It is to use recording devices like cameras or videotapes if it is ethically allowed. Recording allows the observer to review the data later and ensures that nothing is missed during live observation. And lastly, be aware that the observer's presence can affect the process. So it reminds the observer that their presence might influence the behavior of those being observed. Being aware of this effect helps in interpreting the data more accurately and minimizes bias. Now let's focus on reflecting on your data collection plan. According to the National Staff Development Council in 2000, before collecting any data, it's important to think carefully about several key questions. First, why are you collecting the data? This helps clarify the purpose of your study and ensures that every piece of information you gather is relevant. Second, who will collect the data? Identifying the person responsible ensures consistency and accountability in the process. Third, what exactly are you collecting? Being specific about the type of data helps you focus your observation or research efforts and prevents collecting unnecessary information. Fourth, where will the data be collected? Knowing the location allows you to plan for access, permissions, and any environmental factors that might affect your data. And fifth, when will it be collected? Deciding the timing helps capture accurate and representative data, especially if behavior or events vary through the day. So finally, how will the data be collected and reported? Planning the method of collection and reporting ensures that your data is organized, clear, and ready for analysis. So by answering all of these questions ahead of time, you make sure that your observation or research is purposeful, organized, and meaningful.